understand the principles of succession and sustainability, we first need to understand the global economic context, which is presenting opportunities and constraints to family business here in the UAE and here in the region. And to get a better understanding, here's what I did. I went to see 3 experts at the American University of Sharjah. These are people who hold an incredible arsenal of primary data, much of which has never been published. They're the experts that hold the key to understanding how economic trends create peculiar and potentially great scenarios for local business, particularly family business. And I came away after 2 days with 5 or 6 key points that I'm going to call Paul's precipice factors, the PPFs. And here's what I came away with. Let me introduce you to Paul's precipice factors. Here we are. And let's look at the first one of these. So the first precipice factor is the critical moment of inflection is now. It's not sometime hypothetically in the future. It's right now. Why is that? Because statistics show that handover to the 3rd generation in a family business is critical. Less than 5%, actually it's 5.2% of family businesses internationally survive handover to the 3rd generation. And if we look at the historical picture here in the UAE, the greatest single cluster of family businesses was started up between 1968 and 1975. So do the maths, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, that largest cluster is at the critical handover point of the 3rd generation. And that's a challenging scenario. And here's the next point. Is it a case of better do it badly than not do it at all? Well, yes, it does seem to be that, unfortunately. Now, the reality is that if you're the owner of a family business, you don't have to have an operational role. You don't have to be the sales director or the HR director or the CEO. You don't have to do that. If you don't want to, you don't have to do that. You can simply have a position which gives strategic guidance, which is a very powerful position. But regrettably, surveys show that the great majority of family owners believe that they are coerced to have an operational role. And the reality is that many of them don't want to do that. And this shows from the fact that 40% of them are unhappy being coerced in their day-to-day lives in their operational role. And that's not good. Let's look at the next point. Well, here we have the global economic neutron bomb. Something incredibly important happened in 2015, which is not widely properly understood. 2015 was the first time for 35 years that more businesses went bust than were actually created. Now, that didn't even happen during the financial crisis of 2008 to 10. Didn't even happen then, but it happened last year. And the reason I mention this is that the buy-in to that catastrophe amongst family business is 15% higher pro rata than for any other kind of business. And that's a very worrying statistic. That means that globally, family business has a tendency now to be somewhat on the decline, given the economic picture. And the next point is confounding expectations. Well, fortunately, yes. As I mentioned in my introduction, there's this idea that to understand family business, you have to understand the nature of the family. And it might be assumed that the erosion of the nuclear family in, say, the United States and Western Europe would have a degenerative impact on family business. Well, actually, it doesn't. Changing attitudes to the family statistically have no impact whatsoever on the future of family business. And to prove this point, let's look at the case of the United States. The United States has a 52% divorce rate. That's the highest in the world. So obviously something's going pretty wrong with those family relationships. But the United States also has 42 businesses in the Global 500 list, and 9 of those are global top 100 firms. So clearly there's actually no correlation between social and demographic change and the survival and prosperity of the family business. Family business is a very vibrant, very adaptable, very flexible model. And the next point is particularly interesting. But having said that, the buy-in rate of the second generation is declining. Let me present the scene to you. Today, sons and daughters have more choices than they've ever had in the whole of history. Why should he or she go into the family business? What's the carrot? What's the incentive to do that? Maybe you want to go off and do a DBA. Maybe you want to do your master's. Maybe you want to be a professional in a world-class MNC. Why not? You've got all those options open to you. Why go into Ma and Pa's family firm? Where's the incentive? This means that the onus is on the patriarch or matriarch of the business to present the business as an exciting entrepreneurial opportunity. Because unless you do that, the second generation handover will break down. Let's look at another point. Gotcha. Well, now we've got one up on China. This is where China is non-competitive. In China, for 32 years, there was a one-child per family policy. And that had a catastrophic impact on Chinese family business because, look at what we've just been saying. The odds of getting your son or daughter to take part in your business have never been less. Sons and daughters have more choices than ever before. And if you only have one child, one son or one daughter, and they say no, well, I'm sorry, that's the end of the family line in the business. And in China, they actually have a name for this syndrome. They call it the little emperor syndrome. Because what happened in China over those 33 years was, yes, okay, they did successfully control the population explosion. They did do that. But what happened was they created a generation that's called the little emperors. Only children that tend to be spoiled, selfish, and proud of the fact that mum and dad have to do what they want because, hey, they won't have any other kids. But the reality is that this puts regions and nations with a high youth population, and I'm thinking particularly of the Middle East, which has the highest in the world, and Africa, which has the second highest in the world. They have a huge competitive advantage now in the realm of family business. And now, at last, we have a competitive edge over China. So, a question for you, ladies and gentlemen, is your family business growing or declining?